Good morning, Wakefield, and thank you for joining us with, I guess, rendition two or week two of our COVID-19 update. We have a very smart and interesting panel today. We have our health director, we have our superintendent of schools, we have our emergency management director. I also see our chair of the town council on board. And I don't recognize phone numbers, but that's who I see for at least town officials. Kind of a very interesting and fast-moving week this week, and we all know that 12:01 this morning, a number of government orders went into effect. And in case you didn't get them, we're going to run through them very quickly and then have some comments from our panelists. So, Ryan, if you would put up that update, and then we can go through it. Thank you. Great. So all you should be seeing that the governor issued three orders earlier in the week. Order number 53, that was an early closing and alcohol order. Order number 54, with revised the gatherings order, and 55, which revised face coverings. So let's go to our next thing and what we've been talking about. Next slide. Thank you very much. And by the way, if anybody does have questions, please use the chat function. We'll try to go through them and answer them as they come through. So anyways, I don't know why this gives subtitles a try is on. Can we get rid of it so people can see that, please? So anyways, beginning this morning at 12:01, there was a advisory or an order actually for all residents of Massachusetts to stay home between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., which is something my mother's been telling me since I was a teenager. So finally she got her way. The only options really that we'd like to see is people going to work or to school, or of course, emergency and necessary personnel, grocery store, pharmacy, also to pick up takeout food or things like that. And again, if you do leave home, please practice social distancing by staying 6 feet away from others and wear a face covering. Another one that we do not want people to have gatherings in your home, inside or outside after 10 p.m. And there are restrictions earlier than that when you do that. Also, orders include requiring face coverings at all times. And this means we are not saying that you shouldn't have fresh air. People should have fresh air and exercise, but it means wearing that mask all the time. And in a conversation with the governor yesterday that I was on one of his weekly calls, he really is trying to mold and change behavior. Have that mask with you, even if you go out for a walk. I see people around the lake and they're saying to themselves, I'm not going to be around anybody. I have plenty of room, 6 feet. It's a huge area. But no, have that mask, have it on. It's for your protection and for others. And also says to use remote forms of communication instead of visiting families and friends. Let's go to the next one. And let's get rid of that. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So next slide, please. There you go. Mandatory nighttime closing period, 9:30 to 5 a.m. This was quite a discussion with the governor and lieutenant governor yesterday. And what this means is that you should, if you're in a restaurant, inside or out, you should not be in there ordering after 9:30 p.m. I guess you're getting takeout to go. So that is going to be looked at very strictly, and they're really trying to get people home and to limit the time people are out. Businesses other than retail open to the public or admit customers must close also during these hours. So that's, there is a rule that businesses will be closed. Restaurants, as I said, may continue to sell takeout food with non-alcoholic beverages, but no dinners may be seated or served. No serving or sale of alcohol or sale of adult use cannabis, not a problem in Wakefield for that during that closing period. So I think the message is here, get all your stuff done ahead of time and be socially distanced. Go to the next one, please. Again, maintain that 6 feet of different distance. Gathering at private residences, very important. Indoors, no more than 10 people. Whether you have a 1,000 square foot apartment, you can't practice 6 feet there anyway, or whether you have a mansion, it's 10 people inside. Outdoors, no more than 25 people. Gatherings at events or venues in public spaces. Wakefield is still a high-risk community, so we'll be looking at no more than 50 at any outdoor events. And again, indoors, no more than 25. I will point out that town meeting is exempt from that. Next order, please. In the event there are any risks, any outdoor events higher than 50, they must meet with the Board of Health to kind of, make sure we have contact tracing in place. We do not allow any right now anyway. I have not allowed anything going on outside, so sorry about that, but this is to get everybody healthy. Of course, there is a exception for religious gatherings and public gatherings, political gatherings, I should say, and we're not really seeing any of those right now. But face coverings are required at all time, and they also are encouraging private residents to have face coverings. So before we go on, this is our philosophy here, and we've had lots of conversations between the Wakefield Police and the health and our health agent. We really are looking at this as a educational opportunity. We do not want to be we don't want to go around and fine people. And it is the fine is hefty. I believe it's $500 now per incident. But that's not our goal. We don't want us to pull up to a party and have students take off, if they are students, young people, take off into the woods and run away. And then, that's happened in some communities. And then the so-called hosts of the party don't cooperate and give us information. So it makes it almost impossible to have any contact tracing. It's happening in a lot of our communities. We're not here about shaming people. We're here about trying to control this pandemic and to allow for contact tracing for those people that want to skirt the rules a little bit. Not that we're going to condone it or put up with it, but we really are looking at this as an educational opportunity. Our police department, I think we just gave them 1,000 masks. If they do go out, they're going to give people masks. They see them around the lake. We're not looking to find people. We're looking there to help them. Enforcement is by the Department of Public Health, local boards of health, and state or municipal police. I will tell you, state police will never show up. So we're working together with our municipal, with our local Wakefield PD to continue this. I think we can pull this down now, if you don't mind, Ryan, and we'll go to some of our other panelists and see if they want to say anything. Ruth, I'll go to you.
Thanks, Steve. I would like to just do a little bit of clarification that has come out since the governor's orders. So the part about the restaurants, and I know people have a lot of questions about that. So people have to be seated and served their food by 9:30. However, they still have to be gone from the premises by 10 o'clock. So coming in at 9:15 and to a full service restaurant and quickly getting food at 9:29 is not practical because you'll be taking it all home at 10 o'clock. So I just wanted to clarify that part of it. The face coverings questions that we're getting are, if you're alone in your own office, then you do not have to have your face covering on. But if somebody comes into your office, your face covering does go on. And the curfew does not apply to government meetings. I know we're not having any in person, but if there was a government meeting in person, that can go on after 10 o'clock.
Okay. Well, we do have town meeting on Saturday. I will guarantee you we will not be going on beyond 10 p.m.
Yeah, I don't think that's relevant. And I think those are primarily, those are the questions we've been receiving, in the first 24 hours. I also want to note that the guidelines, all the sector specific guidelines, including gyms and all the different things are being updated today. I believe they're already on the state website. So there are changes, especially with sports, indoor and outdoor sports and recreation. So please go on to mass.gov and in the search engine, put in COVID and then whatever workplace you're looking for to get to that area. And please review your updated guidance.
Thank you, Ruth. Going right across the top here, Doug Lyons, our schools, you've done a wonderful job keeping the kids in school, Doug. Everything I've read is the incidence there is of related COVID exposure is very low. So congratulations to you. And I know you're working hand in hand with our emergency team. So thank you. Doug?
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it. So we've had a pretty good week. It looks that in looking at the data, we have 10 cases that we're kind of looking at. And so 7 of the 10 students that tested positive have recovered and are back in school. So that's very positive. So we only have at this point 3 active cases. We were notified at the end of last week that there was a case on Saturday that we learned about. But so far this week, we have not learned of any new cases. And in terms of our ability to contact trace in our schools, I think our school nurses have been amazing. The Board of Health with Ruth's leadership and Karen Cronin have been really so helpful. We're in touch with them almost daily. We're in touch a lot over the weekend to just check in and make sure things are going well. But we are in week 6 of having in-person teaching and learning happening. We've had very few positive cases in school and none of the cases that we've had in school have resulted in anyone needing to quarantine in school. We've had some brushes outside with athletics and with other gatherings, but we've been in good shape. And so the only quarantining that we've needed to do is really with adults. So I'm really pleased about that. And next week we start week 7. And, I think our teachers and our faculty have been amazing. And, we couldn't do what we're doing without them. And next week we start week 7 of our in-person teaching and learning schedule. You're muted, Steve.
Thank you. Tom Walsh. Tom, do you want to say anything? You're muted. There you go.
Yeah, difficult for some reason. No, I just want to say, the public buildings are still keeping them safe. With the governor's orders, I think the town, we're going to probably purchase additional masks so we'll have a pretty good supply. We have a decent supply now, but because of the orders, we'll get some additional in. And other than that, we're the same as we've been. I feel pretty confident. We're pretty safe right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to go to a question that Laurie Hunt put on the chat. Not including this week as it is not updated. Why do our number of cases, this is probably a Ruth question, vary so much from the state's website? We seem to show significantly less cases by almost half than the state does. Ruth?
I'm not clear on the question because our numbers are never going to be exactly the same as the state's because the electronic surveillance system is live 24/7. So it depends on what time of day you go, they take the data off compared to we update all day. I think what she's referring to is the difference in numbers of tests and numbers of confirmed cases. And there is a large difference between the two because we're finding people getting tested more than once. Once they're positive, They'll get retested in a week or two, even though we've explained to them that even when they're done with their isolation, they're still probably going to test positive for a while. We actually consider a positive within 90 days of their initial positive to be part of the same case. So you're going to see more positive tests than they're going to be positive cases.
Okay, thank you. I guess I understand that. I for one, talking about this week, I was talking with the superintendent this morning, and I was very disgruntled because I was going on the state website every 10 minutes last night after 6 o'clock looking for the map to change.
Yeah.
And it kept in, and it's not going to be updated till today, I guess. I do anticipate that we will still be red because they look over a couple-week period, but I also anticipate that our cases this week are less than last week. So that is a positive trend, but we'll have to see when they came out. Another question here, all of our, and I kind of know the answer to this one, all of our, but I'm going to leave it to you and Doug, Ruth. All of our COVID cases in schools are not showing up on the DESE website. If you look at the spreadsheets on the DESE website, as of last week, they show 1 case 4 weeks ago, not 10 cases. This week, there are 2 listed and no staff cases. Our town website shows 1 staff member. Why is this? The positive cases, not the tests, are dramatically different. I think that was on the first one.
Yep.
So maybe Ruth and then Doug can jump in there.
Yep. So we have talked about this. I talked about this at a town council meeting and tried to explain to people in advance that those numbers are different numbers. So the DESE number only includes positive students and staff who are part of the Wakefield public school system and have been physically in school over the past 7 days. So a number of our students who have been positive are actually on the remote learning model and haven't been in school at all. So we are reporting to the public all of the students, no matter what their learning model is, and staff, no matter what their teaching or learning model is. The DESE is only showing people who have been physically in the school. So our number is always, presumably, always going to be larger than the DESE one. And I also, just as a little asterisk to this, remind people that neither of those numbers includes Wakefield youth who may be going to private school, and it doesn't include staff or teachers at our local private schools. So it's a very specific number, and the two are not the same.
So the fact that we show 1 staff member that has tested positive and the DESE says 0 is the fact that that staff member is not in the schools.
Correct.
We're looking at it differently. Okay, Doug,
Right.
Did you want to add it all to that?
Yeah, no, I would say, that staff member is employed by the public schools, but they don't come into buildings, right? And so the Department of Education is only interested in COVID positive cases that have been in school, right? And so that's their purview. We report every case to them, but we do know, and Ruth very accurately described the differences. And I would argue that this is exactly why we're here on this call and have created this dashboard to bring clarity so that there's no miscommunication and we're accurately reporting the total number of cases in our school and kind of what and how we're responding. So thank you for your description there, Ruth. You're spot on. But
thanks. And I think it's an important clarification because all summer there's been an assumption that schools were going to be super spreaders or spreaders of COVID cases. And the data so far in Massachusetts, nationally, and even internationally is showing that COVID is not spreading through the schools. And I can tell you that almost every one of our students who have tested positive because of their exposure to an adult, not to another student. And I think the difference between the two numbers is significant because it shows how the schools are not spreaders, that so many of our students and staff who test positive haven't even physically been in the schools.
Right, thank you. We do have a couple of town officials on the phone, on the call here. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day. Chair Santos, who has been just a fabulous chair in every regard, especially during this tough time. Did you want to say a few words? I've never known you not to, so.
Oh, there you go. I'll keep it very brief. Just that I think Wakefield should be so proud of the folks in charge. And I think we are lucky. I think we are luckier than some of the communities surrounding us based on the transparency and how well we all work together between Steve, Ruth, her board. I see Laurel on here. The school system, Tom Walsh is a fabulous addition to help us navigate these times. Police and fire. It's just from the beginning, we've been very transparent. We've worked well together. We clearly want to focus on the health and well-being of all of our citizens. We've made decisions with that in mind always. So I feel incredibly lucky that we have these folks, and you should all feel the same way. So it's not great being in the red zone. I think we know why we're in that. And you know, I know Ruth is trying to push back that maybe we shouldn't be necessarily in the red, or we should be moving away because of a concentrated amount of folks, but a lot of communities are seeing that right now. One of the best things I've heard is our schools. So the fact that we don't have spread in the schools, and I'm hoping that in the future, people will want to come back to the schools, teachers and students. I'm teaching myself in person, and it's, you know, I think we're doing this very well. So I will wrap up there, but thank you all for your help, and thank you all for joining on this call.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Santos. Laurel Gorville, I see you there waiting to give us your wisdom.
Good morning. I have no additional, Anne covered it. I will say, I just will share that, you know, when we get on the end of this, I recommended to the 4th of July float people that they're going to need a bigger float because we need to stick the school and the health department and our fearless leaders on that float with lots of confetti. So we will see that time, but we're going to need a bigger float.
All right, we do like that. I just want to go back. Ryan, can you put up that PowerPoint again? I wanted to go over the last couple of slides on there because there are a couple of things that we haven't touched on yet. Okay, if you would go to the next one, please. Next one. Nope, next one. Forward. There you go. There you go. So although I said we do not want to fine anybody, I mean, that's not what we're about. But I do want to make sure the community realizes that if we do have situations where after, you know, number of times that people just aren't listening, that civil fine is up to $500. Okay. And that's for each individual over the gathering size limit. So I think that is pretty sobering for people. I never want to issue a fine at all, but I think that that is out there. And that is going to be assessed on the business or property owner that allowed the gathering to be. So I think that's something to consider, although we don't want to go there. Next slide, please. This one is a little bit different, and I want to make sure that people understand this. There are still people, God bless you, that are helping out in carpooling. And face coverings are required when carpooling with non-household members. I think people would probably be doing that anyway. You're enclosing a car and what have you. So that's something that's very important that maybe hasn't been talked about as much out there. Children.
Can I just
Yes.
chime in here about carpooling?
Yes.
You know, I'm a mother and I completely understand carpooling, But I will tell you that we've had to quarantine more than one group of people because there's been a positive, and they have been carpooling with that person, even with a mask on, they end up being quarantined. So just not saying not to carpool, I'm just saying when you carpool, understand there could be consequences.
Yeah, that is a tough one. You're in together.
Yeah.
The other item is, and speaking as a grandparent, children between the ages of 2 and 5 are encouraged but not required. Well, I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I got to say he has been much better about his mask than I ever believed he would be. And that's, outside in the yard, he's got it on. It's been probably drilled into him, but I think kids are more resilient than we think. So I think that they should, no reason why they can't, although they're very safe from what we're seeing overall, they should be wearing those things, those masks. You can take that down now, Ryan. Anybody have any more questions or any final comments at all? I will say that we are pushing out our W's. Wear a mask, wash your hands, watch your distance, Wakefield Pride. Thanksgiving is coming up. People really need to be very careful about limiting the numbers. Please don't, I know that we miss a lot of our relatives, particularly the older ones, having, 20, 30 people in your home for Thanksgiving like you usually do. It's probably not the thing to do this year. I mean, definitely not under the rules, but also definitely not for everyone's safety. Zoom is a great thing. Having an outdoor celebration, socially distanced, maybe having an appetizer outside, which is something that my family is going to do with some of our relatives. It'll certainly be only about 10 or 15 at that. So I'd ask you all to do that, please. Any other comments from anybody on the board? Ruth?
Not to end on a negative note, so say something positive when I'm done, Steve.
Okay.
But one other thing that that was in the new governor's orders that hasn't been highlighted, but I'm going to highlight it, and it's something I mentioned at a previous town council meeting. The governor's orders now requires people to respond to our questions when we're doing case management and contact tracing. Unfortunately, we have had situations with coaches and parents who literally just refuse to talk to us or give us information. And that's a problem from so many different ways. And I think it's pretty obvious why it's a problem. But that has been communicated up through the ranks to the governor's office, and the governor's office has now included in their latest orders that somebody could be penalized for not cooperating. And our intent, again, is not to penalize. Our intent is to get that information. It's the only way we can contain a cluster or prevent a cluster from happening. So we do not disclose to the people that we call who was positive that they were in contact with. We just say they've been in contact with. But if they don't, if the family or the coach does not give us that information, we can't do our job. And it really has occasionally, not always, but occasionally been a problem. So please answer our phone calls. I understand you don't pick up your phone if you don't know the phone number, but our nurses leave messages. And then, and it may not be from our public health nurse, Karen Cronin, because we've hired additional nurses to help with our work. So if somebody leaves a message saying that they're from the Melrose Health Department, please return their call.
Or Wakefield.
Oh, geez, sorry. Sorry. Wakefield Health Department.
Wakefield Health Department. That's okay.
Have just hired 2 additional people, and we're in the process of hiring a 3rd additional person.
Right, to help with the contact tracing. Very, very important. I don't think that was negative at all, Ruth. The governor did mention that in his meeting yesterday with municipal managers. And it's not the public school teams that he's having an issue with. It is the private club teams that, for some reason, weren't giving information when the health agents called, when there was those issues, or the nurses followed up. Very important, and that's for everybody's safety. I say the same thing to people that come into town hall. They don't want to give their temperature. They don't want to give their name. That's for your safety. We don't want this information. We want it in case someone came in that we later found out, or one of us was it, you were in contact with us, we can let you know and keep you safe. And this is all about keeping everything safe. Be doing a lot more messaging. We'll be having this every week. Does anybody else have anything to add?
I just wanted to add one more thing, and Steve, was I'd like to put a shout out to both Betsy, the town clerk's office, for the amount of work and effort they put in, especially on the early voting and keeping us safe. And then our greeters. We had days where we had 550, 570 people in our building, and trying to keep track of the contact tracing for our people to vote and stuff. So just a shout out to both the town clerk and the greeters that we have as well.
I agree. And hopefully we'll see some of you Saturday at town meeting. We have seating inside and outside. People that aren't comfortable inside. It should be much quicker than we did in June. That worked out very well, and everyone stay safe. Remember all of the W's, and just keep safe over the next few weeks. And we are here. There's a lot of information on the website. Jen McDonald, our communications director, has done a great job putting out information to everybody, and we're here to give you as much as we can. So thank you. Thanks for joining us today, and stay safe, Wakefield. Enjoy the weather. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.